Hi everyone, my name is Caitlin, and today I'm going to be your leader on your virtual field trip of the King County Wastewater Treatment Plant. Today is going to be a little different than normal. We are typically together here, right, learning and seeing this place firsthand, but we still wanted to bring this place to you through this virtual tour. In this lesson today, you are going to need a couple of things. You are going to first need a buddy, maybe someone you do school with at home, like a friend or a sibling, maybe a parent or another adult could be your buddy. The second thing that you're going to need is a pencil and a journal. Now, our journals look like this. If your teacher gave you this journal, that's great. If you do not have this journal, we have linked the journal in the description box below, so you can click on that and get a copy. And if you don't have the journal, that's okay. You can just use a blank piece of paper and pencils. Today we are going to be asking a lot of questions in our lesson, and we are going to be freezing the screen at times to give you time to think about the questions we're asking. But if you need more time at any point during our lesson, please feel free to pause the video, and it might give you a little bit more time to talk about the question with your buddy or fill out anything in your journal. We are going to be thinking like scientists and engineers as we learn about all the different solutions that those engineers have come up with to remove all 4 categories out of the wastewater. Those chemicals, bacteria, trash, and organics. Does anyone know what the word engineering means? Yeah, engineers use science to design solutions to problems. Okay, I think we're ready. We have all of our safety gear on to go explore this wastewater treatment plant. So let's turn our journals now together to page 4 and 5. They look like this. They kind of, lay them out flat and they kind of connect together. See how the pipes are all connected together? We are gonna follow along in this journal together today and go step by step through this process, okay? If you don't have a journal, remember, it's okay. Just use a blank piece of paper and you can write step 1, 2, 3, 4 as we go. Let's make sure our journals are on page 4, and we're going to take a second to list all 4 of the categories in the wastewater. So now we're gonna follow the wastewater from the wastewater pipe, and look, we're entering the treatment plant here in our journal, and let's read step 1 out loud together, okay? Step 1, people flush all kinds of trash. How do we remove it? So take a second and talk to your buddy about how you think we remove all of the big pieces of trash from the wastewater when it first arrives here. We're just gonna brainstorm, and then we're gonna go explore it for real in just a second. All right, here we go. going to take a second and fill in our journals with what we just saw downstairs. All right. So I'm gonna draw these big bars where all of the big pieces of trash will get stuck on those bars, like this, okay? And then slowly the machine will come up and scrape off all the pieces of trash on the bars, and they'll get collected. So what we're gonna see next is where all of the big pieces of trash gets collected. Once all of the trash is collected, we grind it up into tiny little pieces, okay? And so this is where all that grinded trash goes from all the homes and businesses. All of this trash eventually ends up in the landfill. There are tons of things, as you can tell, that people flush down their toilets every day, like baby wipes and paper towels and tissues. Those things really don't belong in being flushed down the toilet. This is an example of what can happen to our machinery when we flush baby wipes and paper towels. All of this stuff coming out of this machine called a pump shouldn't be there. It's completely blocked, this pump, and so water can't move through this pipe. Now we're gonna go over what are the 4 P's. The 4 P's are the only 4 things that you should flush down the toilet. Does anyone have any guesses? I can think of a couple. The first one is poop. What goes with poop? Pee. What else belongs down the toilet? What happens when you get really sick sometimes? Puke. And finally, the only type of paper that should be flushed down the toilet is toilet paper, or TP. Any kind of flushable wipe, tissue, or paper towel belongs in the trash. Any of those wipes or baby wipes or paper towels can cause major clogs. All right, we're ready for step 2 now. Let's read step 2 out loud to the group. Big poop, food, and grease is removed in this tank. Draw and label how it is removed. Okay, so we are gonna take a second and just think to ourselves, how would you remove all of the big, heavy poop and food out of the water and all of the light oils and greases? Model. This is a model that we have made to kind of explain what's happening in those tanks that we just saw. In this model, there's water, sand, and oil. Can anyone tell me what the word model means? So this model is kind of like looking in a cross section of the tank, kind of like when you go to the aquarium and you look through the window of the glass and you can see the top of the water, and the sand on the bottom, okay? So what do you think is gonna happen when I stop shaking this model? Shaking it up, shaking it up, shaking it up. And let's let it sit for a second and lay flat on my clipboard. Okay, Wow, look at all of the layers forming here, right? See, we have the oils and fats and greases on top. We have the sand on the bottom and the water in the middle. This is representing the 3 layers that are being created in our tanks. In our tanks, the sand represents the poop and the food, and the oil and grease represents kind of like the scum, the fats and oils and grease in our wastewater. So this is what you would see. If we could see to the bottom of all the other tanks, this is what you would see. See how there are these long bars running across the bottom here? If those were turned on, they would be slowly pushing all the heavy poop and food on the bottom over to the other end of the tank to be collected. Okay. We are now gonna fill out step number 2. So let's draw together, just like in our models, our 3 layers. We have our oil and grease on top, water in the middle, and poop and food on the bottom. Now, the water in the middle will head on to the next step, but the poop and the food and the fats and oils and the greases from the top and the bottom will be collected and go somewhere else. And we'll talk about where that goes later. We are now ready for step number 3, so let's read together step number 3. Draw and label the microscopic ecosystem happening in this tank. Also, what is being added to this tank? Okay, so when we go look at this next tank, make sure you're thinking about what is being added to the water to make it look this way, okay? Do you know what the word ecosystem means? The word ecosystem means a large community of things living together, right? And this ecosystem in our tanks of water are microscopic. So this is what's happening in this tank at the microscopic level, meaning we can't see it with our naked eye. So we have the big microbes that are using all of the warmth and the air to grow and reproduce, and they are feeding on all of the little bacteria that could potentially make us sick, and they're feeding on the organics like the remaining poop and food. So let's draw that out. So we have our organics and our bacteria and microbes. Just left step number 3, and now the water needs to go through disinfection, right? So this is where that is happening. This lazy river, I like to call it, slowly having a disinfectant added to it to get the remaining bad bacteria and germs out of the water. But don't worry, once the disinfectant has done its job, killing off the potentially harmful bacteria, we remove it before that water goes back to the Puget Sound. So now our journal is asking us which items have been removed. So far in our process, going through step 1, 2, and 3, we have removed the trash, correct, very good. We've removed all of the organics, like all of the poop and the food. And we've also gotten rid of all of the bacteria in step number 3. The only thing that we haven't talked about is how we remove all of the chemicals. So let's read step number 4 together. What is still left in the cleaned water that goes back to the Puget Sound? Over this waterfall just beneath my feet is heading out underground here to travel 13 miles in a pipe back to the Puget Sound. Still a couple things left in the water that are hard for us to remove. What was the only category that we didn't check off in our journal so far? Chemicals. There are hundreds of chemicals that we use at home in our everyday lives that end up going down the drain with the water and they end up here. We don't have 100 different solutions for every single individual chemical. So something that you could do that could really help us is talk to your adults or parents at your house about what kind of chemicals you use. Maybe you could choose to use different kinds of chemicals, like sometimes in the store you see chemicals that say green cleaners. Typically those have less harsh chemicals in them and they're much easier for us to remove out of the water. Look at that purple pipe. Let's follow it with our fingers and see where it goes. It's going all the way down to the garden. The water that leaves here isn't for drinking, but that water can be recycled for other things, like watering plants. The plants in this garden are being watered with recycled water. See these purple pipes? Purple is the sign that you know that that water has been recycled from the wastewater treatment plant process and is now being used to nourish the plants. I like to think of the recycled water as super water because it not only brings water to the gardens that plants need, but it also has some nutrients in that water that the plants need to grow tall and strong. Okay, so remember at step number 2 when we had all the big poop and food on the bottom and the oils and greases on top? Remember I said we're going to come back to that? Well, now we're going to learn about what happens to all that material. So let's look in our journals. And follow that pipe. All of the material from the bottom of the tank and the top ends up going this way to a digester. This is our digester. Look how big it is. What does the word digester make you think of? Take a second and talk to your buddy. I know that it makes me think about when I'm eating food and my digestive system is breaking down my lunch or my breakfast. Yeah, digesters like these are really just like human stomachs. All the poop and the food and the oils from step number 2 end up inside these digesters for 30 days with no oxygen at a temperature of 98 degrees Fahrenheit. So as the material sits in the digester for 30 days, it starts cooking, and these microscopic organisms start growing and breaking down the poop and the food and the oils and the greases. So the material that comes out of the digester is called a biosolid. A biosolid is basically a bunch of really good rich nutrients that we use to put in our soil to grow food. So these trucks behind me are heading to farms every day to grow things like wheat, apples, and conifer trees. Let's turn our journals to the very last page. It looks like this. This is kind of going to be our final wrap-up for the day. We want to know what you learned today. Let's read out loud the final prompt. Stewardship. What is one thing you can do to help the wastewater treatment plant? Well, first let's talk about what the word stewardship means. Now, the word stewardship means to take care of something. What we want you to do is to take a minute and draw or write in your journal, what is one thing you're going to do to take care of our system? Maybe you're gonna share with a family member or a friend what you learned today. Maybe you will only flush the 4 P's down the toilet, only toilet paper. Maybe you'll think twice about the types of products that you use in your bathroom or your kitchen. Maybe you'll use less shampoo in the shower. Great job, engineers. Today we saw the process of taking water that looks like this and getting it to look like this when it leaves here. Pretty awesome, right? Thank you so much for spending time with us, and we hope to see you next time. Bye!